Well, the San Francisco 49ers have received several pieces of cryptic news today. What's happening in injury updates is telling us a lot about what we think is going to happen in the next few weeks. I'm going to get to some of that, which includes injury updates in a moment. And then later in the show, we're going to talk about a secret weapon that I'm going to be watching for tomorrow at the game that I think is going to be a real key indicator as to how this game is going to turn out for the San Francisco 49ers. This is a good sign, I think. If you're new here, I'm Nate, love talking the 49ers. Please consider hitting that like button and that subscribe button if you haven't yet. It does really help me out, and it helps you to get the best 49ers content I can create out there for you. Make sure that you don't miss it. So in the injury updates, we got to get to that first because there's some stuff in the injury updates, several pieces that are going to be key. Starting with edge rusher Yetur Gross-Matos was placed on IR. So he's been out with a knee thing for a few days. It was looking like it was going to be IR. They kind of leave it up until right before the game. That kind of is sort of standard, has to do with the 4 weeks and all that good stuff. But whatever the case, it's most advantageous to wait till really close to the game to actually place the guy on IR from a strategic point of view and also from practicing and time before they can be put on the 53-man roster and all that kind of stuff. The defense will face Kyler Murray, Geno Smith, Dak Prescott, and Patrick Mahomes without YGM, which I think is a fair point to bring up because those are all four quarterbacks that you really want a strong defensive line for. But that being said, every quarterback in the NFL, you want a good, strong defensive line. Like if you just look at every single quarterback, there's a handful of teams out there that you're like, whatever. But most of them, you're going to be expecting your defensive line to need to be solid in any given game. So whatever. Defensive tackle T.Y. McGill Jr. was activated. Kalia Davis was activated as we expected. We talked about that yesterday. So that leaves Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, Robert Beal Jr., and Sam Okuwanu as the defensive ends. And then that's Kalia Davis, T.Y. McGill, Malik Collins, Kevin Givens, and Jordan Elliott at defensive tackle positions. 49ers have ample bodies to rotate, keep players fresh. Some excellent points here about the temperature and how important it's going to be to rotate guys. So we might even see more rotation today than normal. That won't be a huge surprise to anybody if we see that. But the positions I'm really more going to be watching for on the defensive side of the ball is at the linebacker position. And here the team elevated. Well, we got to talk about that too. We'll come back to the linebacker position. Sorry. So the team also elevated Trent Taylor from the practice squad. So this is one of those cryptic things that tells you that Jacob Cowing must not be healthy enough to play. Otherwise, they would not have elevated Trent Taylor. Jacob Cowing, up to this point, has not been out there as a wideout very much, but he has been out there returning punts, and that's been his primary role. You like him because of some of the extra he might be able to get you over time, some of the potential that's there for him, and he's got that 4.3 speed. But Trent Taylor gives you a solid punt returner, a guy you can trust. And he's going to come in there and he's going to do a fantastic job. I actually feel more comfortable with him catching the ball at the punt return in punt return situations than I do Jacob Cowing. I just don't like the feeling personally. I have never liked the feeling of having a rookie out there catching the ball because you just don't know where their head's at until you see them on the NFL stage in big game moments returning punts. That being said, Jacob Cowing's done a very, very good job. Bar one mistake, he's done an excellent job. So I'm not going to be too down on him so far with what he's done. It doesn't change the fact that I like Trent Taylor back there at punt return. I'm not going to complain about that. Do I expect to see Trent Taylor out there running routes? Yeah, he'll probably run a few, but probably not much because most of these guys are healthy. So that's a good thing too. Let's see here. Was there one more thing? Okay, well, let's talk about the linebacker position. So Tatum Bethune is a potential contingency plan for Fred Warner. Tatum Bethune, this is what John Lynch said about this contingency if Fred Warner's not able to play. Tatum Bethune is hard to play. It's hard to play rookie at the Mike linebacker because you're effectively the signal caller. But in training camp, we saw Tatum kind of have the makeup of being a signal caller. We call it the green dot because these are the ones that the coach is in their ear, and Tatum is that kind of guy. He can grab a huddle, he can communicate, and he's a tackling machine, so Tatum could see some action. That's 100% realistic. I said to you yesterday, we need to see Devondre Campbell have a great game, but he might not be playing in the mic. So there's your Tatum Bethune potentially, this year's 7th rounder, right? Getting a shot at being the Mike linebacker position. That will be really interesting. D. Winters, if you remember, was not challenging for the Mike linebacker position. So we'll have to see if he gets some playing time, but he's healthy, which is exciting. We need to see him start to develop as well. So I think if my honest gut, and I'm sure you feel the same way, is you have this weird competing situation where on one hand, Fred Warner is going to go out there and do anything he can to be on the field. If he feels remotely physically able to be on the field, he's going to be on the field. But the flip side is you have a short week with Seattle away. So do you want to throw him out there against the Cardinals and potentially risk that ankle injury further, or do you give him a few extra days of rest because we have a short turnaround and having a healthy and raring to go nice little bye week for Fred Warner might actually be a really good opportunity, at least in terms of the damage on his body. I know he didn't go out of town or anything like that, but could be a good opportunity to have him come out there against the Seattle Seahawks, where he is the freshest guy out there. So I understand that tension. My gut is that Fred's going to want to play and that the team's going to sit him. That's my gut. We'll have to see what happens, though. There's some more cryptic news out there, though. Let's get to what's going on with Christian McCaffrey, according to Adam Schefter. So Christian McCaffrey will not be activated for Thursday night's game in Seattle against the Seahawks. That's technically the first game that he's eligible from IR. League sources told ESPN on Saturday, even though the 49ers star running back is eligible to return, McCaffrey's return depends on how he fares in practice, but for now, there is some mild encouragement because the 3-time Pro Bowler's calf and Achilles issues did not flare up after on-field work this week. His first on-field work since being placed on IR, according to league sources. Now, there's the bilateral Achilles flare or deal that's going on, bilateral Achilles tendonitis that's going on, but one of his legs is worse than the other one, and it didn't flare up. So that's a good sign. We're happy about that positive news with him being out there on the field. With the way that Achilles injuries tend to be, especially from learning from folks in the comments who've had them, it might mean nothing that it didn't flare up, because it could be feeling good for a couple days and then really bad a couple days later. So we're just going to have to wait and see how that plays out. Some people are suggesting that he's going to be back, for the Cowboys or maybe for the Chiefs. I'm not sure if the 49ers are looking at this and just thinking, yeah, at most, maybe he gets a few reps with the Chiefs before bye week, which is what I told you way before the season started. I would love to see Dre Greenlaw come in and get some reps at a competitive level right before you go on your bye week, and so you can get your body out there. But technically, you can get those similar reps in practice, and so do you want to risk it, put him out there when the game's on the line? Whatever, okay? But whatever, either way, I think you're probably not seeing Christian McCaffrey as a starting RB1 until after the bye week. Some folks are saying that that's a guaranteed done deal. After the bye week, he will start. I think it's convenient, it's practical, and so it's easy for us to make those connections. I'm not sure that anybody really knows that's going to happen. If his progress continues without any setbacks, Christian could return October 20th for a Super Bowl rematch against the Chiefs. There's also a chance he could turn for the Cowboys, but even more reasonably, the 49ers could opt to sit McCaffrey for both of those games and have him after the bye week against Tampa Bay on November 10th. McCaffrey hasn't suffered any recent setbacks. That's the thing that we need to be thinking about, the positive, not spin, but the positive thing we need to be thinking about in this process. Now, one last thing. I was telling you that we're going to get to a secret weapon for the game. And just before we talk about the secret weapon, the San Francisco 49ers are going up against the Arizona Cardinals, and we know what to expect from this team. We know what we need to be good on. We know what we need to handle. We know what we need to do and be disciplined with and execute on. And we look at Kyler Murray and we know what we need to do around the pocket. So the defensive line needs to be stout. But there is one aspect so far in these first 4 games, still somewhat of a small sample size, but now enough that we can notice some trends, there's something out there that I'm sure you've already heard of, that you already know, that is the secret weapon I'm going to be watching for during the game tomorrow at Levi's Stadium, and that is that Jordan Mason is set up to potentially have a very solid game. This is from PFF SF 49ers. Mason's 268 rushing yards after contact ranks first among running backs this season. The Arizona defense ranks 30th in yards after contact allowed to running backs, making them vulnerable to Mason's physical running style. So not only is it a team that's struggling to stop the run and a team that's running the ball, it's a team that's struggling to stop a runner like J.P. Mason, which I think is a positive way to look at this. I'm feeling optimistic about that fantastic news. And I guess maybe that's not news, but I'm feeling optimistic about that fantastic reality. And I'm going to be watching JP very closely during the game tomorrow, because I think his success will lead to this offense's continued success. You've got Brock Purdy running the helm and taking charge and really having a fantastic start to his season. The first season, you remember, that he's had an actual full offseason as QB1. So I'm feeling really positive about the offense. I think the defense, of course, there's going to be some question marks without Fred Warner if he's not playing, which is where my gut is that he probably won't be. But then, Fred Warner looks and he sees, Patrick Willis is going to be doing the Hall of Fame thing at halftime, whatever. I mean, how does Fred say no in this opportunity? He's I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's always hard for me to imagine Fred Warner not starting a game where he physically thinks he's possible. So I'm really hoping that he plays. That would be the best thing. But of course, if he doesn't, there's going to be some question marks there. There's still some depth issues. We've seen some good stuff out of the defensive line, but can they do it back-to-back weeks? Can they do it against a tougher offensive line? We have lots of question marks. Jordan Mason's just one potential solution to breaking down this team. I just think the 49ers have too much talent to not be able to handle the Arizona Cardinals. That's just my gut. We'll have to see what happens. We'll see which Arizona Cardinals actually show up. That will be another factor. But as always, guys, I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling excited. I can't wait to go to Levi's tomorrow and have a fantastic time. I'll be looking for you guys as you're out there. What a time to be alive.